What would you say the secret to running a successful hospitality?
I think it's the same as running any successful business. It's actually loving what you do. I tell people all the time when I go and people ask me to talk of things or go and meet with people, I always say never, ever, ever.
Welcome to the Lowe Down. We're here again with Nick Mills, my friend and the owner of the place we're in, the Hummingbird, which is incredible. Nick is a owner of the Wellington Saints basketball team, publican restaurateur and host of News Talk ZB morning show. Is that right?
100% correct. Although my son now has taken over the Saints completely, I'm the old guy at the back of the room now, yelling and screaming.
Nice, Nick. I am fascinated to ask you about your ownership of the Saints. I mean, there must be a fascinating story behind that. Like, how did it come about?
It came about. It's a really good story. It came about. I was quite successful, very young. I owned a nightclub called Slack Alice Exchequer, Night Sight, call it what you want. And my cousin moved to Wellington to play for this new club that was going to be formed to go against the big ones. It was like a little satellite club. He was a current New Zealand rep, so well-known, respected player, but he didn't want to play for one of the established clubs. He wanted to play for a new club, and it was made up of 4 or 5 old boys from St Pat's College in town. It was called the Saints. And he was playing for them, and they had no money, no idea, just wanted to be a basketball club. Long story short, he visited my house, and I had a German Shepherd. I love telling the story because the German Shepherd wouldn't let him come up, the steps of our house. It was Lower Watt Street, Wadestown. I don't know, the street. No, yeah. Number 11, so it was a lot of stairs up to it. Yep. And I think I was 19, 20, 21, around that age, very young. Anyway, the dog must have befriended him and let him come up, and he knocked on my door and said, "Hi, Michael Stokes." I said, "Of course I know you are. You're my cousin." He said, "Well, we haven't seen a lot of each other. I'm from Christchurch, you're from Wellington. We've got this basketball club that's been formed. We've got no money. You own a nightclub and you're making some money and you've got some money. Can you help us out?" Then I don't know why, but I sort of went to a game and they got beaten by about 20, and I said, "I don't want to be involved. I'm a successful young guy. I'm doing things. I don't want to be connected to this." And he said, "Come on, just help us out." So I gave them enough money to buy singlets. So they had some uniforms, and the rest is history. I got the bug, got involved with 4 very successful businessmen. Well, one was a lawyer, one was an accountant, one was something else. They were just young whippersnapper guys, a bit older than me. And we formed this organisation, the Saints, and the rest is history.
Amazing. And I imagine, were you coaching at any point?
Nothing. I had no involvement. I never had any. I was a typical Kiwi, rugby, cricket, that sort of guy. And never had anything to do with basketball. But bought the bug. The bug sort of got to me. I think we lost 15 games in a row, and I said, "This ain't going to happen." And we brought in a guy called Kenny McFadden, who became a legend in New Zealand. And it just kept the story just kept growing. The nightclub that it was becoming more and more successful. The basketball team was becoming more and more successful, and
amazing,
one led off to the other, and sort of I suddenly was Jack the lad around town.
And in terms of, and you were doing CEO role, sort of.
Running it, yeah. I was the kind of. As I say, one of them was a lawyer, Tom Pivick, and one was an accountant, Mike Bazzala. So they looked after the business side, but I was the entrepreneur. I played the music, made sure the music was there when the team came out, and we made it connected with people, made it all happen. So I was the glue with a vision.
And what are the economics like for a sports team today, like in New
Zealand?
Still,
they'll always be the same. You lose money.
Right.
You lose money.
So it's a passion project always.
Always a passion
Too small
project.
a market, right?
And like what you do for the city. I remember my father was just a headmaster, but not just a headmaster. He was a headmaster, but he was a mad king gardener. I remember getting out when I was about 12 or 13, looking out my window, and he was fertilising the ground. And I said, "What are you doing that for, Dad?" And he said, "If you don't give out, you don't get back." And that's... He was talking about growing plants. He had no idea about business. And it always stuck with me. If you don't give out, how do you get back?
Yeah. If you look after community looks after you, right?
And if you look after people, they look after you.
100%.
You're going to get burned. You know that. You're going to get burned along the line. But if you keep thinking that the more you give, the more you'll get.
There's a net benefit, even if some things don't work out right.
Yeah,
for sure.
You keep trying, and that was my Saints thing. And that, I had some horrific financial experiences in my life and lost everything, and I lost the Saints for a period of 7 or 8, 10 years, and then it became available again, and I bought myself back up financially and bought it. I think it was 2000 or 99, so I've had it for another 20. So I've had it for so many years I can't remember.
And your son is now CEO?
Yeah, and I'm going to say that he runs it. I mean, he does a far better job with me. Maybe he doesn't win quite as much as me, because for me it was all about winning. That was my thing, like you. You want to be number one, you want to be the best. That's what drives you. You don't give a damn what you've got on your bank. You care about that you're number one and people respect you for being the best. That's what's all. Jordan is about a business. Jordan runs it as a business, and I say it's unsustainable. He's creating now a business model where this year I think we'll break even or make a little bit of money the first time in 42 years.
Yeah.
So there is a way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And as your son, he's obviously entrepreneurial like you are, as well as a good manager. Is he?
I think he's a player. He was a guy that played the game. I think he is more of a manager. None of my family, and this is a really interesting thing, because we've been through some incredibly hard times just lately with business, with COVID and the recession and everything. And none of my family, none apart from me, are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs. Once again, you'll know, have highs and lows and highs and lows. 100%. And if you're a child of an entrepreneur, you don't want that.
That's interesting. That is fascinating. Yeah.
You don't want even. They always say second or third generation. Remember, you hear the story that the rich guy, becomes really successful, and his sons or daughters don't do anything, and then their sons and daughters suddenly come again because they haven't had that highs and lows and great highs and great lows.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, outside of obviously the basketball team, you've currently, to be honest, I tried to figure it out exactly how many restaurants you had. I couldn't quite figure it out. What's it? You got Spruce Goose, Hummingbird, Betty's. What?
We've got rid of a few over the recession's got rid of a few or so. We maximised at 9. Right now we're currently sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. And this is like a notoriously tough. It's being a restaurateur or a publican is a notoriously tough industry. You've been incredibly successful, in your lifetime doing this. What would you say the secret to running a successful hospitality?
I think it's the same as running any successful business. It's actually loving what you do. I tell people all the time when I go and people ask me to talk of things or go and meet with people, I always say never, ever, ever do anything for money.
No, I agree. Yeah,
if you do it for money, it's a screw up.
No, it's got to be passion.
It's got to be passion.
Who would be in business? It's great. Like it's an adventure and it's fun. You're in a walk rowing with great people, but you don't want. It's very stressful unless you enjoy that. Unless you enjoy the adventure and rowing in the
highs and lows
and the highs and lows and the waves. Unless you love that risk return thing, there's no way you're going to last just looking at the dollar. Right? No way.
No. So you're right. I mean, and in 45 years I've been in this industry, nothing. This is, I believe, and I don't want to be negative because I've been getting some advice from someone trying to keep me positive, but I believe that this is our Second World War.
Right.
We none of our era know what it's like to be through a war.
Yeah.
But realistically, when COVID first hit, the lockdown, then the recession, and then the restrictions during that first part after the opening. For hospitality, it was super tough. We owned three very, very successful nightclubs that were making big money.
Yeah.
They were just wiped out.
Like
wiped out with a sword.
Oh, I was going to ask you, is this the worst you have ever seen it? And I guess the answer
no
is
question.
Clearly a yes. Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah, fascinating.
Not even close. Yeah. And anyone that's doing well now should really look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm pretty good. Like yourselves and, companies that are doing well, you should say, shivers. I'm really lucky that we're doing something special. I've also got this really, really good friend of mine who's an incredible surgeon, a trauma surgeon and an orthopedic surgeon. And he always used to say to me, and very, very dear friend, he always says, a recession and hard time only affects the bottom 20, 30%. The top ones, they come down a little bit, but they're still okay. But if you're struggling and working your way at that bottom part, you're gone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can't fight it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you had a highly publicised, sound like a very long and stressful saga with the IRD.
I did.
Over a 7-figure,
Yep.
bill,
Yep.
which you recently sorted out with them, which is great that you got to the end of it.
Yep.
Do you want to tell the story of that?
Yeah,
in your words?
we did get into trouble. We got into trouble over. It was just before COVID hit. We had we had the police and health telling us that they weren't going to renew our licences in our late night places. So we had some huge bills trying to legally fight that and lost it. So we got ourselves into a bit of trouble. We did a deal with the IRD, and then we were hit with COVID. So we couldn't sustain the deal.
So the negotiations were on just payment terms and time. And,
and it all went to custard. And then the change of government is what really changed it. We were okay. We had a deal and we were struggling, and it was tough. It was really tough. And basically the new government came in and said, get all our money in. We got no money, we're in trouble, which we all knew that was happening. Get some money in. So they just came in, and it was well publicised. They put a demand on the front door of our office, and then someone told, no one knows who, but someone told the newspapers. So it all got publicised. It got ugly, and it went right down to the wire, and it ended up us having to refinance completely everything. Second tier lending, all the drama of everything to keep it going.
Well, I mean, well done for getting through all that. And I mean,
Well, it's still a fight.
It's
still, it doesn't finish.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and you seem to be a person who's obviously won big and lost big in life and gone through those ups and downs. So your resilience is clearly massive.
I don't know whether it is anymore. I mean, yes, I agree. But, when I was 30 and went through some huge financial, we built $1 million, $1 million club. It was just like nuts. Who would build $1 million club?
Back then as well, $1 million then
30 years ago. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So I mean, we were nuts. I was bulletproof. I don't think I'm bulletproof anymore. I think in this experience, let's call it experience with the tax department, has changed my life forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has changed. It was like, it was real damage.
That's interesting. And because I was going to ask whether, it was natural, whether you had natural resilience or whether your business life had shaped that resilience. But it sounds like you probably were more naturally orientated towards resilience, and actually this last thing has been hard on that.
Yeah.
On that.
And the family, we're a family business. So we've got, my wife and 2 sons, we're all in it. We're all struggling. And my sons have got kids, I've got grandkids. The whole family has been really affected. And really it didn't need to be. When you want to pay someone and you want to sort things out, work with them. Don't try and pay too heavy, And the experience, and I can't say much yet, but the experience is still going to come back and hurt us, It's just,
well, we, when I think about, the social good of, and the vibe of the city, people like yourself and the entrepreneurs that are out there taking these risks are absolutely critical to the way that the city, the vibe, the way people feel, the fact that we can go out and have a nice meal, that we can go out to and enjoy a drink. I mean, it's essential to the entire culture, isn't it? So it is such a key service, and I mean, what you do is brilliant. You do an amazing job. You've done it for a long time, and I think the government needs to respect that.
Well, I think they just need to understand. I just don't think it needed to be. I say, and I'll say it on your show. I would have preferred to be dealing with the Russian mafia than the tax department. They were just horrid. They were horrible people to deal with. They didn't care what they were doing to you, had no feeling. They sent me after it was all done, this is ironic, they sent me a form to say, can you fill out how you were treated? I couldn't even fill it out, we're doing a survey to see how we handle things. I looked at it, I went, are you kidding? You've made, I haven't slept for 6 months, a full night. I've, looked at my wife, extremely upset. I've watched my kids all upset, and you want to send me a form to see how they handled it? They know how they handled it,
If we go right back to when you first launched, so it was Exchequer, I think I remember that. That was
Plymouth Steps.
Plymouth Steps. And how old were you when you launched your first boat?
Well, it was interesting because I was trainee manager down at the Grand Hotel, Barrett's Hotel down the road, and the manager of this nightclub came and said, I hear you run all the entertainment for this pub. I was only 19, And I said, yeah. And I said, anyway, he said, will you come and have a look at this nightclub, which we've got this nightclub. It was owned by a guy by the name of Phil Warren, who'd mean nothing to you, but was a legend in music industry in New Zealand, 50 years ago. And anyway, long story short, I started working for him, and I changed this club around. I found a little band in Blenheim that was really good, and brought this band to Wellington and got rid of a band called Red Eye that was the big hip in band that wasn't making any money. Put these young kids in this band in, and suddenly it was colossal. It was just full every night, and the guy was making a lot of money. And then the company that I'd worked for previous as a trainee manager offered me a job overseas. Someone said to someone, and my mother rang me because it was a day before faxes, and it was a letter that had come to my parents' home. I wasn't living there, but it was my parents' home, and it was from a group in Holiday Inns in Hawaii, and they said, do you want to come and be a restaurant manager or a bar manager, or we can get you a green card. You just got to come over before you're 20. So I rang this Phil Warren and said, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm going to go and do this job in Hawaii. He said, no, you can't leave me. This is too good. Because he'd lost money for years. Suddenly he was making money. Another long story short, he said, buy it off me for $150,000. Now this was 1975.
Yeah.
Now this is, I bought my house in Lower Watt Street, Wadestown.
Yeah, it's a lot of money back then.
For $62,000.
Yeah.
So
it's
you compare
double what a house would cost.
Yeah. Work this out.
Yeah.
And he said, you pay me at $2,000 a week. And I did, and I paid him off, and then I owned it, and that was the start. But I was too young to actually run it because I wasn't old enough to hold a manager's license.
Yes.
So I employed a guy, Mike Phillips, and he managed it for me. I mean, I ran it; it was all my thing. But he was he was the guy wandering around in the suit, pretending that he was the manager. But I was in the background putting the entertainment on.
And what was it called in those days?
It started off by being called Slack Alice, and then it went to Nightside, and then Exchequer.
And when did Exchequer close down?
Oh gosh, I'm hopeless with dates. Would have been in the late 80s, maybe 90s.
Because I think I remember. I mean, I was born in '79, so you were doing all this before.
Before
I was born. But I do think I remember in the '80s the Exchequer.
It would have been 80s because we won championships with the Saints. It would have been 80. Late 80s it would have closed. Yeah.
And then you're just rolling profits into new ventures.
I did. And then I went belly up by doing this $1 million metro. It was based on the Paris Metro Underground. We spent far too much money and couldn't recoup it and lost everything, and then started again. Really,
is that? Do you think I'm just guessing here because obviously I don't know, but in terms of like making a good hospo venture, you need to hit the right notes, obviously in terms of the trends and what people like, and then also not overcapitalise, right? Would those two be
100%?
The two,
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% of that overcapitalised because that was done by an architect and it was all went crazy and nuts. What we do now is my wife does all our design, so everything that we do, Gina does. She did Spruce Goose.
I mean, this is stunning in here, absolutely.
That's
beautiful.
all her.
Yeah.
She did Spruce Goose. She did this. She did Los Bandidos. Everything we do, she's come up with the concept and the design and everything. So we do it ourselves. We build everything ourselves. We don't. Obviously we get builders and electricians and plumbers, but we do it. We manage it and stage it and do it all ourselves. And we have budgets and we stick to those budgets.
Yeah, nice. And in terms of the city, I know there's a lot of variables going on right now. The government cuts, we're still COVID, work from home. Like there's so much going on. Do you see any green shoots on that front at all?
Yeah, I do, and it's interesting because just this morning on my radio show, I had the Prime Minister and I asked him if he takes any responsibility for the situation in Wellington is with cutting all this, the government employees and what's going on, and he said Wellington needs to just get off its own arse, and make it happen for themselves. We've got to stop looking at everything in a negative view and look at it in a positive view, and it's what I'm trying to gear myself up into too. I mean, this has been incredibly hard making this work because everyone's dogging Courtenay Place, everyone's talking about the people on the streets, everyone's talking about all the hard times in Courtenay Place. So it's been, but we just keep saying, hey, we're putting a product on, we're going to keep going. So we've all got to do that. We've all got to just get through it. And a really, really quick, interesting story. A really good friend of mine who lived in London for many years, came and had dinner with his wife 2 weeks ago, and they were parked around the corner, and he said to me, I don't really want to walk down the street. You know, he said, I don't like the street. I came, I loved your restaurant and everything, but I don't want to walk there. I said, I'll walk with you. And he said, that's what I mean. Look at that guy there. I said, man, you lived in London. Didn't you see that in London? You know, you've been in New York. You know, you've been in California. Street people are everywhere in every major city in the world. We're a capital city. They're not hurting you. You're not seeing any violence. I mean, you've got an office here. Have you seen anything? You see the odd crazy walk past and say crazy shit, but you don't actually see violence.
We've had it for decades anyway. With we had Blanket Man, and you remember. I mean,
of course.
I mean, there was. I know it is probably worse now, but that's growth of the city is going to create that, unfortunately, as it gets bigger. And it's hard, it's tough times out there as well. And I know from my work with the City Mission that there is. There's a lot of people feeling it very tough, and the reality is that some of those people unfortunately end up on the street. So
and they feel better on the streets. But they're not hurting anyone. They're not actually. I mean, you walk down here. Does anyone give you a hard time? They might ask you for a couple of bucks. You walk down Paris. You go down to Soho. What? It's going to be any different?
If you were mayor, what would be on the agenda for the city?
I have a really, I mean, it's easy for me. I have a thing that I have it tattooed on my wrist, actually. It sits on my watch and you never see it. And it's actually, it's Hindu, but it says green light. And if I was mayor of the city, I would green light it. And you know what that means?
No.
What do you do when you see a green light?
You go. Yeah.
I'd green light it. I think that's what's wrong with our city. We're on amber or red. We're not green lighting it. We're not actually saying, I talked to someone the other day, right in here with a camera, and he said, why do you keep with Wellington? I said, well, let's walk out the street. Let's look left, water. 150 metres down there's water. Let's look right, CBD, 150 metres down there. Let's look left, 150 metres there, and you're in a beautiful, beautiful Mount Victoria, one of the great suburbs of Wellington, all within 150 metres. There ain't nothing better than that.
We're very lucky, and I know how passionate you are about Wellington, Nick. I mean, and I agree. I've lived here my entire life, and I love the city. So it's hard to see it like this, right? It's hard to see it.
It is hard to see it like that.
Yeah.
But I remember doing a radio show, the same show that I'm actually now a host on, as a guest with Fran Wild. Was it Fran Wild or one of those politicians? Anyway, it wasn't Fran Wild. It was anyway. It was with a politician, and she looked at me, and I was being negative about something, and she looked at me and she said, "You know what? If Wellington had good weather, you and I wouldn't be able to afford to live here." And it's simple. You imagine this city with good weather.
I don't even think the weather's that bad here, but
we're end of May, and
it's temperate, right? I mean, you go from 25 to 11, or it's a big
but
deal.
you know what I mean. We still have those windy, wet
days. It's the wind.
The wind. But if we had good weather, we wouldn't be able to afford to live here. I mean, it is a beautiful city, and we've gone through a rough time. But that doesn't define us, does it?
It absolutely doesn't. So, so you're going to run for mayor?
No. I'm not bright enough. I mean, and you know what? I've just explained.
Being too humble there, but
I just explained to you that it's all about doing it. It's all about actually seeing something, fixing it, and doing it. I couldn't sit around with a whole lot of people holding hands and them saying to me, "Oh, we can't do that. Oh, what social conscience do you have for that?" I just want to get it done.
Yeah, it would be complicated, I think, wouldn't it?
Very
complicated. Yeah. And just in terms of the dynamics.
Yeah. And I don't mind the idea of Andrew Little, but I don't love it. I think he's a very boring guy. I mean, we're not a boring city. No, we're an exciting city.
Yeah. And we'll come back, right? We're going to come back. I mean, there's these things do come in cycles, and this is a bad one. But there's as sure as the sun comes up, things will get better.
Yeah, but we have to make it better.
Yes, I agree.
We can't just sit back and say, "Oh, it's going to come right. It's going to come right." Yeah. I get that positive stuff, and I understand it. And was it called positive affirmation or whatever it is? But we can't just sit back. We can't sit back, and we got to get off our ass. We've got to get people like, I don't know, Sir Peter Jackson and Fran Wild. We've got to not Fran Wild, but Fran, whatever her name is. We've got to get the city going.
Well, I believe the two things you can't wait to happen, you can't wait for culture and you can't wait for community to happen. You have to create both of those things and shape them to how you want to be, and it's about being purposeful about it, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, before we wrap up, you live in Seaton Heights.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You've been there how long?
25 years.
25 years. Tell us about what your home and that part of the world means to you.
Well, my first major home was 11 Lower Watt Street, Wadestown, which I thought, and I built another whole story on it and built a swimming pool. This is when I was a young, under 25, under 30 type thing. And I always thought that I'd lived in that house till I lost everything, lost that home. Went over and rented in Seatoon in the village, and then was lucky enough to buy a place in Taipakupaku Road that was run down to hell.
It's a beautiful street.
Bought it very cheaply, and then Sir Peter Jackson did what he did and made the whole suburb worth a lot more money. Then I bought an old place, or we bought not an old place, but a dangara in Seatoon Heights Road that we were going to do up 18 years ago. We still haven't done it up, but we love living there. It's got massive views, it's got all day sun, and we love it. And that part of, I wouldn't live anywhere else.
I went to West Bay Primary School and grew up in Tocha Road, so
I know
the
area.
whole area. It's fantastic. You've got the beach over the hill. You can get to town quickly, and it's just
airport,
it's suburban bliss, really. It's just beautiful out there.
Yeah, and I hope I don't lose it, my home, but I don't ever want to live anywhere else. I'm not that guy. I'm always looking to get something better all the time. I want a better car, I want a better house. Yeah. But I just love it. I'm off the road, I drive down, it's multi-storey. It's a shitter. It needs doing. It needs completely doing. But I wake up in the morning and I open my blinds and I look at the airport, I go up my drive and I look at the ships coming in.
It's amazing.
It's paradise.
Yeah. Well,
paradise.
What you just described is why I love my job, because it's the emotion and the love we have for our homes is something quite special and quite different to other things.
And to live in that home. And I'm saying we bought it to do it up. It was a doer-upper 20 years ago, so it's still a doer-upper. I just don't want to live anywhere else.
Nick, you have been incredibly forthright, frank, and and humble. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for the city with all of your businesses, and wish you well for the future. So I really appreciate you coming on. And back at you. You started something very, very. You just popped up out of nowhere. You're a well-known, well-respected real estate agent. Then suddenly, bang! Overnight, you've created this thing, and I got a lot of respect for you and what you do, because you've got this vision. And you're not copying anybody. You're not trying to be anybody else. You're just being yourself. And to have grown so huge so quickly is amazing. And that's down to one thing: you. Well, part of it, I think, is obviously we're an incredible team that I work with, because I've got ADHD and I just spin around circles, causing chaos, and people help me move forward. So I was speaking to a guy called Stephen Kearney, who's a very famous rugby league player, captain of the Kiwis, coached the Kiwis. On Saturday, he was in Wellington on Saturday. I talked to him for a bit, because I think I suffer from ADHD or whatever it's called as well, right? And he said to me, some of the greatest athletes in the world all have that, because they can actually do something that no one else can do. Yeah. So that's not a hindrance. I think the key is knowing where your blind spots are and getting people to support you in that, and sticking around the spots which are your superpowers, isn't it? And not be scared to employ somebody that's actually better than you. Yeah, well, you should be looking for people that are better than you in everything. In everything. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? That's not that hard for me. Me neither. I'd look at I'd say the chef, shit, you can cook that? Great, fantastic, love it. So we just got to get people around you, but don't think that it's not about you, because it is about you. It's that energy and warmth and vibrancy that you bring in by doing that twirl. My parents call it hyperactivity. Well, parents don't like it. Parents didn't. My parents were school teachers and thought I was thick. I think it was common back then, wasn't it? It really, it's more. People are more accepting now, perhaps. But back when I was a kid, people often thought your parents were doing a bad job because you were, different. You were a bit different and hyperactive, which is a shame, Yeah, it is. Anyway, I really appreciate it, Nick. That was the Lowe Down. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back at it again next week. Thank you.